And the title for this one is Joseph's Education on Life, Part 2. You know, I think about the story of the prodigal and Joseph. It has an interesting parallel. Both of the boys had a place of refuge. Both of the boys were loved by their father. Both of the boys enjoyed their time while they were there. But one of the boys decided, because of his intrigue of what the world had to offer, which was the prodigal, decided he wanted to venture out. Where God knew Joseph's heart. God knew that Joseph would not venture out, that Joseph would not leave his father's place. So the fact is that God had a plan for Joseph's life, and it was not there in Canaan, it was in Egypt. See, the only way that he was going to be able to get his plan to fulfill or go according to what he already has, he had to stir up things at home. And he had to cause issues for Joseph so that the brothers could conspire to come against him to do these horrible things, knowing that what they were doing was an injustice, but in the eyes of God, God already had a plan behind that. See, the Bible says what man made for evil, God in return will make for good. Amen. So a lot of times we're in our situation in our own personal lives, and we don't know why things are going wrong for us. It's not always because you've done something wrong. It's because God has a plan behind what is going on. Because it could be that you're gonna be put in a position. Had you not gone through what you was going through, you would have never thought about that position. Yes. So we find out Joseph, the favor of God, from the time he was leaving his father's household, the Ishmaelites that took him, the band of Ishmaelites that took him to Egypt, took him to a place to sell merchandise. And now you figure, how is it that Potiphar was in the presence of those places when he saw this young man? I mean, you imagine how the timing had to be. You know, I'm pretty sure they didn't have particular days that they sold slaves, because they were coming down on a particular day themselves. They didn't expect to have a slave to be sold. The same with God in his plan for our life. We don't know what it is until we get there. And Joseph didn't know that Potiphar was part of the plan that God had. That Potiphar was going to be the one that yield to God, because not everybody that is going to accept you is of God. So God can't put you with just any and everybody. See, there must have been something in Potiphar's life that God knew that he could trust and that he can use for his purpose, that he can use to have the resources to purchase Joseph. Because there was other people that could have used money to purchase Joseph, but it was Potiphar who won him over to win the slave. Because he was a young man, and they knew that a young man could be used for many years. But here it is, Potiphar brought him into the household, and it doesn't say. All we know is that Joseph was 17 years old when he first left. And now we discover that him being 17, he's at a rightful age to be entrusted to do certain things. So all of a sudden we find that Potiphar, you know, held Joseph for so many years. Well, you know, the Bible said that he was 17, and then we're going to find in the other chapter that he was in another place, and he was probably like 30. Okay, the fact is that between 17 and 20, I'm going to just say 27, 28. So he had to be under the tutelage of Potiphar for at least 10 to 11 years. So we're looking at a time frame that Potiphar probably looked at Joseph not only as a slave, but probably as a son. Because that's the kind of favor, when we walk right before God, he will open up doors for you where you don't deserve those. But God knows what he's doing. See, we discover that God's plan for you is beyond our imagination. So what he was doing with Joseph was he was preparing Joseph for something greater than Potiphar's house. See, in the beginning, Joseph was doing his duty as a slave boy, but God's favor was on Joseph enough that caught the attention of his master, that noticed that he was attentive to detail, and everything that he did, he picked up real well. That he, and how ironic that all of a sudden he allowed him to come in and give him more duties. And in each duty, he became better at it. That each time he just started giving him more projects, more things, because the favor of God on your life, it will make things work according to his will and his purpose. Even though you're getting the so-called the glory of it, but in the end we know that when the Bible said, let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works, that you may glorify your Father which is in heaven. See, they're going to see the good works in you, because people will notice that you're not like a normal person. That the Spirit of God is leading you and guiding you, and they see those things, because in the world we don't see that. So we find that Joseph must have had a character that was so unique that Joseph made an impression not only on his slave master, but he also made an impression on his slave master's wife. See, we discover in certain situations the promises. Here we go in, it's in Genesis. See, the thing about God's promises will not come void. It will accomplish whatever he promises, it will come to pass. See, we're going to Genesis. It's going to be chapter 12, and I'm going to read, it's going to 1 through 3. And it says, these are the promise. Abraham was called by God. The Lord had said to Abram, leave your country, your people, and your father's household, and go to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all the people on earth will be blessed through you. See, think about this. Think about that promise, which was in chapter 12, which was years and years before Joseph even came on the scene. This was even before Isaac was born. The fact is that the promises of God that he delivered through Abraham was still going through. It was so interesting. God's promises to Abraham has a sevenfold situation, structure. He said, number one, I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you. Number three, I will make your name great. You will be a blessing. Number five, I will bless those who bless you. 6, whoever curses you, I will curse. Number 7, all people on earth will be blessed through you. See, God's original blessing on all mankind, that was God's original plan. His blessing would be restored and fulfilled through Abraham and his offspring. See, it in various ways and degrees, and those promises were reaffirmed to Abraham, to Isaac, and even to Moses. Through God's promises, all those things that he promised in Genesis 12, 1 through 3, he promised those to us. To know that Joseph was fulfilling the promise of, remember, we're going to discover, because we know the conclusion of the story, how the whole world was going to have to come to Egypt because they were about to starve. See, you see how God was preparing his offspring. Abraham's offspring was Isaac, you know, and then it was Jacob's son, which was one of the last of his offspring. Jacob never had no children outside of Benjamin, was his last son. So you imagine God waited till the second to the end of his children to use for his purpose. See, God has a plan. You don't know that someone that your children's children may be a blessing that God is utilizing that will make something happen in the situation. See, we discover in the situation where when Potiphar's wife found him attractive, we find also a similar situation, and we know this gentleman by the name of Samson. He twice was seduced, and he succumbed to his seduction of the women that was there. But yet we find, you can find that in Judges 14 and 17, and then the second 16 and 17. That was when Samson was seduced by Delilah, and he succumbed to her passing and her passion to him. But Joseph, in the same boat, refused, because his focus was on God. His thought process was on the one who created the heavens and the earth. See, this is the difference between, again, we look at the prodigal, we look at Samson, and we see the difference. And remind you, Samson was a young man just like Joseph. See, you see the differences of these situations, that if you really set your heart to God, God will honor that. And he will make things beyond your imagination and your goals and your dreams. Sometimes he gives you a dream when you're young and early, but you'll come back later just to reaffirm that same dream, that you know what, I'm still on course and you are still on the right path that I got you on. And you look back on your life and you say, wait a minute, but I'm in prison, or I'm a slave now, where once upon a time I was free when you gave me this dream. But we serve a God that does not, he is attention for detail. He crosses all T's and dots every dot, every I. He is doing that not only for Joseph in this situation, but he's doing it also for us. All you got to understand is, when you look on your gloomy days and you look back on your life when you was going through issues and struggling, never underestimate that even though Joseph's situation is about to change dramatically, God's relationship to him remained the same. Remember this. It doesn't matter what goes on in your life. No matter who says what about you, or where you go, God's relationship is with you, and it's not going to change. His love for you is the same from the beginning to the very end of your life. So it's nothing that surprised God about what Joseph was about to encounter, because God was allowing the situations to unfold, because what he was doing was this was a plan that a mastermind person was pulling the strings. And we're talking about God. Not that he was a corrupt God, but he knew exactly, he was meticulous of what he was thinking about doing before the foundation of the earth. He knew what he had to do, and he knew the promises that he was about to fulfill through not only the offsprings of Abraham, but us. See, it's not complete because we haven't completed the story of life in general. God is still working his process through us. The promises that you hear that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and all those that were before us, those are still lined up for us and our family. So you got to take to heart, when God speaks, he's not letting that word come back void. It's going to pierce the heart of the man, the woman, the person that is intended to touch. God's word is alive and active. Everything and every time you read his word, it's never the same. It's always, it accomplishes its intended purpose to restore a broken heart that may be broken at the moment. The Bible says that he is close to the brokenhearted. So I'd imagine how many times Joseph's heart was broken. After he's doing all he can, he had favor. Now he's had a decent job. He's now under the tutelage of Potiphar, and he probably looks at Potiphar as a father figure as well. Remember, he came into a foreign land not knowing the language of these Egyptians, but in the process of maybe, like I said, 10, 11 years under the household of Potiphar, his relationship, his language, is vernacular. You know, it changes. It becomes like them. You know, they say you're a product of your environment. So you imagine him being under the tutelage of Potiphar. Potiphar's ways now become Joseph's ways. And not that it was bad ways, but it was good ways, because every time there was a task that Potiphar put Joseph to do, he was successful at it. And I'm pretty sure he failed at a few here and there, but Potiphar was right there to just say, no, you do it this way. And this is how, you know what I'm saying? Where, no, the math, if you put it this way, you'll probably figure that the math will go this way. See, what he was showing Joseph was the ways of the Egyptian. Okay, remember, sometimes we have to, as children, we think like children. Okay, and then all of a sudden, as we get older, we go to school, and then when we go to school, they're teaching us new ways to think. So sometimes we have to take our old thinking and put it to the side and reason within ourselves and say, is this something that I can use or I don't need? See, God has given every one of us wisdom to know what's right and wrong.
Yes.
What is good and what is bad. And Joseph, under the tutelage of Potiphar, day in and day out, it said that Potiphar had no worries. He said the only thing he was concerned was, am I going to eat biscuits today or am I going to eat steak tomorrow? That was his own concern, was what kind of food that he was going to eat. And that wasn't Joseph's probably responsibility, but it was the fact that that's all he concerned himself with. No bills, no nothing. My servant has that. He's got everything that I need to worry about under control. Because Joseph was once again, he was a student of detail. He knew what Potiphar wanted, and he did exactly what Potiphar asked. And at the end of the day, he probably gave a report of what took place. Well, the slave over here on this other side was a little disobedient, and he didn't do his task. Because remember, when Joseph was a little boy, he was notorious for being a tattletale on his brothers. So he had that gift from a child. Because remember, he said, Jacob told him that day that he was leaving to go see his brothers, and bring report to me what they're doing. Because Jacob knew that Joseph was going to tell him the truth. That's right. Judah threw me in the well. See, had he came back, he was going to tell on him. So you know that Judah knew that he was going to get in trouble. But back to the point I'm making is that Joseph had notoriously was always, not that he was wanting to be a tattletale or anything like that, but it was that he was obedient. That's right. When the Father says, you report to me what you saw, yes, not what you think. Yes. All I want to know is the facts. Mm-hmm. And the facts are, this slave over here didn't do his duties, Potiphar, and guess what? He got reprimanded. And everyone respected Joseph because they knew that Joseph was going to be a man of integrity. Right. See, when you walk right before the Lord, you have no choice but to be that. Amen. Because the Spirit of God is going to convict us, yes, according to its purpose. Yes. If you know what is right, but yet you do wrong, the Spirit of God will convict you to do otherwise. Right. To humble us, to make us be who He already knows we will be. Because the Spirit of God is destined for the purpose of bringing us to the remembrance of God. Yes. And the Spirit of God is always generating thoughts in our head that are good, that are wholesome. And that's what the Bible says. Think on those things that are good and don't think on those negativity things, because those are from the enemy who's trying to infiltrate your camp to bring delusion in your mind so that your spirit and your God will be at odds. Because remember, one thing about our God is that when you sin, He no longer can be around you. Because sin and God are like night and day. Every time daylight comes, night has to go. Right. So the fact is that when you live right, you know to do the right thing. The first thing we do every morning is ask God to forgive us because we may have thought, said, or done something that is not right before God. Yes. So we know the key to getting back in good standards with God. Amen. And Joseph knew this because the Bible says you train up a child in the way that he should go. So when he leaves the household, he will know how to get back on track. Right. Because you trained him to know to tell the truth. Because if you notice, when we listened to Potiphar's wife, she had two stories. She told one story to the servants that were there, and she said another one to her husband. See, when she went from telling them this to making him look even worse, yeah, to Potiphar. Right. See, because she already probably saw that relationship with Joseph and Potiphar, because remember, the Bible doesn't speak on that, but you got to understand, you've been under the tutelage of a man for a while, and he feels like your son. Mm-hmm. And think about this too. The Bible said that it burned within him anger. Mm-hmm. Okay, Potiphar was angry of what Joseph, because he couldn't believe it, but remember, my wife is not going to lie to me. Mm-hmm. Because if you marry the right woman, she will not lie to you. But because she was not a woman of God, that she had the deception in her heart. Because she couldn't get what she wanted. And because Joseph wasn't Samson. Because Joseph wasn't led by his emotions and by his lust for whatever he wanted. Samson, But Joseph was led by the Spirit of God that was wanting him to do the right thing. See, here's the thing about this situation, that we find that in this situation that Potiphar could have threw him into a prison, a real prison. But here's the thing, that Potiphar had he was probably hurt because he felt like, okay, my wife, she's lied to me before, but maybe Joseph could have done this. The fact is that he was torn into two because his wife and his biological son, you could say. Yeah. So the thing is that even though he was angry, God was still in control of his anger. That he did not succumb to putting him into a prison where he was going to be locked up and he was never going to get an opportunity. But yes, look where he put him at. He put him in a prison, the blessings of God, where the king's prisoners were. The king's prisoners, meaning that these are not notorious bad people. These were subpar people were found. Those understandably, Potiphar was angry. He put Joseph in the house of the captain of the guard, certainly not in the worst prison at that time. There was other prisons that he could have put him in, but he did not put him completely in because God had another plan. And now we're discovering how, you see how all of a sudden God could have put him in the other prison where the baker and the cupbearer would never have gone. Right. So God was planning his steps. The Bible says the steps of the righteous are ordered by God. And even though Joseph was going from one situation, his brothers betrayed him. Now he's going to Egypt. Now his Potiphar's wife betrays him, and Potiphar, and now he's going to be sent to a place called the captain's prison. So you imagine he's going from one situation to another, and he's going like, wait a minute. And then in his little natural mind, he has to still be thinking those dreams. I'm going further and further from those dreams. Yeah. First off, my brothers are not even here. Yes. My brothers, and how are they going to even bow down or do any of these things? Yes. How is this going to happen when I'm over here in prison now? Nobody don't even know where I'm at. Right. I'm like one of those lost childs that no one is ever going to know where I'm at. Right. But remember, no matter where you at in this world, you could be in the middle of the earth. God still knows where you at. Amen. See, Joseph was in the middle of prison, and yet here it is. Interesting start to the finish. If you notice how it started off in 39, and it concluded this way. It said in the beginning, in 39, it said, now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt, and Pharaoh's official, the captain, and he said, and here it is, number 2, and the Lord was with Joseph. Amen. Okay, and then we go over here, number 39, and at the end of it, and he said, under Joseph's care, because the Lord was with Joseph. Amen. See, that's two different situations, but it's the same thing. The Lord was with Joseph. And believe this to be true. The Lord is with you. Amen. It doesn't matter what stage in your life you're going through or going to. God is with you. I pray that you guys got an enjoyment out of part 2, Joseph's education on life, because this was a life experience for Joseph. Think about this. His life in Canaan was nothing like this. He was actually being honored by his father and given a position. He didn't have to go with the brothers to go do the shepherding. He would be the one to come and inform them. You see the cushion job that he had from the beginning of his life to the end, that God was using him. You are just like Joseph. When you look on your life and you discover that God is with you, that should give us encouragement to know that everything, even though it doesn't seem like it's going to be all right, because God is with us. And